Hey there, it's Mark from MENWHOBULLET. Thanks so much for checking out today's video where we're going to be setting up our monthly cover page as well as a first week of April. If you haven't checked out my recent stamping video, you can check it out above. I've been slightly addicted to these radial patterns recently, so I thought I'd incorporate that now into my bullet journal. Supplies for today are going to be a pencil, you're going to need a ruler, as well as some type of a compass. I have this really cool one here. You can also use one of the pointy ones to create your radial patterns to follow along. You're also going to need ink. I'm using the VersaFine black ink here. You can check out all of these supplies on my Amazon store. I'll link that right here below so you can check that out and pick up these items if you'd like. For the stamps, I have so many now, it's getting a little out of hand, but I've got them organized inside of this book here. And I wanted to use one of my favorite stamp artists. If you're not familiar with Eric Small Things, you have to check out her account. She's an amazing eraser stamp artist. She just works in such an amazing way. I tried to emulate her style with my own stamps I've been working on, but I don't have that precision, and she does. So one of the great ways to get these designs into something is to buy the stamps and use them. So we're going to be using these two different packs here, and I'm going for a fun like office theme. So I'll be using some of the lights and the pencils and some of the other paper airplanes, little fun things like that. To get your page ready for this, what I'm going to do is actually center it and just create a square in the middle of my page. To find the middle of my page, especially for this square bullet journal from Archer and Olive, I'll count that out, find my middle point both vertically and horizontally. Another reason that I love the square bullet journal, all of the measurements are exactly the same. And I'm going to find the middle point of this page. The next thing that I'm going to do here is create my square pattern. Depending how large you want this, you would just create a larger square on this page if you wanted to. Mine isn't going to take up the entire page, but I'm going to use a good majority of it to create my square inside of here so I can really include a lot of those patterns. Now that I have my square drawn here, what I'm going to do is take my compass and I'm going to draw out a few circles around this page. And then I have this great guide that I can use for this radial pattern that we're going to create. Along with doing the circles, I also want to create all of my cross points as well. So I'm going to draw these across the page here. So let's go ahead and get into the fun. So for this first pattern, I'm going to use this cool paper airplane that's inside of here. I really like the way that this looks, and I think it'll be a really cool central point of this page to use. So I'll pull that out. I always forget to mention, but you do need a clear stamping block if you're using clear stamps for this. It's just one of those things that now that I've been stamping for a while, I always forget to mention that you need them. But anytime that you're using clear stamps, you'll need the acrylic block. They just stick right to it. It's super great. So to start off this radial pattern, I'm going to go ahead and put each one of the points of this paper airplane facing in towards the center. So I'll go ahead and just build this out on each one of these cross points. Next, I'm going to pick out this really cool fountain pen, and I'm going to fill in all of the spaces vertically and horizontally in between each one of these paper airplanes. I always like to start in the center and work my way out with these radial patterns. I can think about it a little bit more as I'm doing it, and it also just starts to get more full and so much fun. Now that I'm thinking about it, I put in the cross points. I also need those verticals and horizontals as I continue to build this out. As we continue to build our way out, the next stamp that I'm going to use is this cool little scissor. I'm going to alternate this around this circle. So what I'll do here is for this first one, on all of the angles, I'll have the scissor pointing inwards. I'll stamp all of those angles first. And then what I'll do is I'll create the opposite on the verticals and the horizontals. So I'll face the scissor point outward. One of my favorite stamps from this collection is actually this desk lamp. I don't know why, I just think it's just really cool looking. I've been using this one a lot. I think the reason that I like it, especially for these radial patterns, is that it's a dense color. There's not a lot of extra white or open space, and it works really well opposite of the open white space that we have in some of these other ones. We're going to keep building out, so I'm going to use this fun pencil drawing with this little squiggle at the end. This will start to build out the length of this outward. So I'll put each one of these on the angles right underneath where I have the lamps. I'll use the lamp as my focal point. I don't want to have to draw more guidelines, but if you feel like you need those guidelines, you draw as many as you want. With your pencil, just make sure you're drawing them lightly so you can erase them later. Now that we've worked our way out to the edges, I'm going to use this really large stamp here, which is a large paint tube, and this is going to go on all of the angles. I like this for a few reasons. One, it's very big, so it takes up a good amount of space, and it also has a really good mix of the dark color inside of where the label would be, and then the extra white on the tip and on the end. I also really like the small detail that's in here on the edges. Like I mentioned, Eriko is just such an amazing stamp artist, and she details these out with an X-Acto blade in her stamps. I'm so blown away. I'll continue to fill this out as we go all the way around. This next one is going to use a small little crayon here. There are some very, very fine details inside of this crayon. They're not really coming out for some reason with this ink. I don't know if I'm putting too much ink on there or not enough. One of my other favorite stamps inside of this collection is this little ruler protractor deal. There are such little minute details inside of here which unfortunately aren't really coming out on this stamp. But I just love the way it looks, and I think this also is a really great juxtaposition to all of the larger or other curved items we have with really nice sharp angles. As we get closer to the edges and there's less and less more open space, what I start to do is position the stamps on here to see what works space-wise. So over here, just to the left of that paint, I'm going to put this little coffee cup that has little coffee beans spouting onto the top, but I also want to start to fill in some of these smaller spaces. So in this case, there's these really cool little tiny binder clips that are a part of this collection that fit perfectly right above where that protractor is. So what I'll do is I'll set them on the page here, I'll take my acrylic block, and then I'll put it right over top and it'll pick them up in the exact placement that they are on the page. I'm going to continue this pattern all the way around, always putting it to the left-hand side of that paint. The problem is as you get towards the bottom, it moves kind of over towards the right. So what I'm going to do is take that and stamp that around in all of these same spaces around the exterior of this. Now to mirror that, I need to just place the stamps on the opposite side in relatively the same position, and I'll stamp these the opposite way. I'm going to add one last detail inside of here, which is just a small filled in black circle. It is a part of one of the sets. I don't know if it's supposed to be like an ink splotch or not, but I felt like I needed just a little something extra to fill in this white space, and these worked out pretty well. I'm going to keep this pretty straightforward, but just to keep it the whole collection, I'm going to pull out one of my month stamps. I have a whole other stamp collection that I have outside of the binder that you saw before. I'll talk about that a different day, but inside of here I have the stamps that have the month name on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it on top and finish out the page nice and easy. Now that I have everything on here as I like it, I'm going to go in with my eraser and get rid of the pencil lines. Just an extra note, please make sure that you let your ink set for a few minutes. Depending on what you're using, make sure it's dry before you start erasing, because if you don't, you're going to streak your beautiful ink all over your page and be very unhappy with yourself. Along with the cover, I'm also going to do a really quick weekly spread, and I'm going to use one of the other stamps that's inside of these collections just to create those boxes. To do this, I'm just going to work on a real quick 3 grid. Since this is a square journal, this works both ways, so I can easily figure out that spacing, go ahead and draw these in here, and be really quick about things. One of the things I love about stamps is that you don't have to worry about doodling each one of these boxes. In this case, this has a really cool pattern. A lot of the elements that I already have as a part of that cover page are inside of this little box. So I just have to stamp it onto the page and all those little details will be there, and it matches. My final detail on this page is going to be a stamp that's going to be part of the header for the right hand side where I'm going to keep all my rapid logging for the week. It's a cool hand with like a handwritten line with a pencil, so we'll put that over top of here. And then I have a real quick note stamp that I have that'll go right over top of this and fit inside of this space. And then that is everything, and we're good to go. Thank you so much for checking out this video today. If you'd like to see some other bullet journal ideas, I have an entire playlist for you that will hopefully inspire you to create some other pages inside of your journal or your bullet journal. I'll talk with you very soon. See ya.